to Your American Dream. I'm Anisha Jennings, and today we're exploring how architecture becomes activism with Pascale Sablan, whose work proves that when we diversify who designs our spaces, we transform how communities experience the world around them. Welcome, Pascal. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your early life. I know you're a daughter of immigrants, so tell us about that and tell us about your journey into entrepreneurship.
Sure. So I am Haitian. Both my parents immigrated from Haiti. And so it's really important that I centered my identity in my culture. So I speak my language, Creole, fluently. I know how to cook our meals. And I think that's a great way of kind of maintaining the legacy in that space. I grew up in an area in Queens called Cambria Heights, which at the time was a very heavy Caribbean Haitian community. So being able to go down the block and see restaurants that has like our culture and our food being offered was also such a special treat. And I didn't realize the privilege of having a space and a community that reflected various cultures. And so that was really important. I went to a Catholic school from my pre-K all the way through eighth grade. So really was consistent, grew, matured, learned, and really felt like the whole community was my home. I felt very comfortable walking through and down blocks, riding my bikes. Neighborhood kids were my friends. You know, the street light goes on. That's when it's time to go home. But we were all rushing home, riding bikes, rollerblading, all the things we've learned together. My home was actually a special one because my mom loved the water. And so she actually had an above ground pool in our backyard. So for the summertime, we were the spots to chill at and to hang out and do all the things. From there, I went to an all girls Catholic preparatory high school, which I learned about incredible women and was reinforced that I would change the world because I was a woman and all that I brought forward in that space. And it was a very challenging academic experience. The level of success was hard to reach, but series of resources and support to get me there. Also made some fantastic and amazing lifelong friends that are part of my life today, which is really incredible. So really proud of attending and being an alumna of the Mary Lewis Academy in Jamaica Estates, Queens. From there, I went to Pratt Institute to get my bachelor's degree in architecture, which is actually a very rare degree to get. Not many schools have a bachelor's degree in architecture. It is a 5-year program. And so I was really happy to do that. But then upon graduating, my mom said I had to get a master's degree. And I was like, why? And she said, because, when you're graduating now, you're the latest and greatest coming out. You're the cheapest staff. With time, other people are going to start to graduate and surpass you. So we got to make sure that you have all the credentials so that nobody can mess with you. So I also have a master's degree, also in architecture, technically a master's of science in advanced architectural design from Columbia University, and began working in that space. But I say all that to say, when I started getting my bachelor's degree at Pratt Institute, professor, I want to say it was like an architectural history class, asked me and another student to stand and say, these two will never become architects because they're Black and because they're women. And I was surprised the professor that didn't know my name, my capabilities, would make such a strong proclamation. I was also surprised that my classmates and peers was very, very quiet, and that in a class of like 60 or so students, only 2 of us were Black women. And when I sat down, the student to my left said to me, "You better not let that stop you. Prove him wrong." And he said it in much more colorful terms, but as a competitive person, it was exactly the sentence I needed to hear. And as we talk about the call for entrepreneurship, that's when I realized in that moment that when I walked into a space, I was representing more than myself. I was representing a whole demographic, a community, and needed to show up and show out. And so that responsibility of presence and performance is something that I really carried and understood that not only did I need to become an amazing and incredible architect, but I also had to change the profession, not just in the work that I do, but actually how we function as a business and how we function as an organization. And so upon graduating, getting a job, doing projects, I also started to volunteer in different organizations, architectural organizations around the city. So one of them was the AIA New York. The next was NYCOBA NOMA, which is the New York Coalition of Black Architects, which is the New York chapter of NOMA, the National Organization of Minority Architects. And from there, I got very much informed about some of the challenges and the issues that we were plagued by in the profession, and seeing really important information centers, systems, networking events, seminars, workshops that helps dismantle some of those injustices. But what was also really powerful is that I saw this tackling very heavy, dark, important things. But my superpower has always been about light and levity and joy. And so that's what helped me build my organization and founded Beyond the Built Environment in 2018, which specifically has a mission to elevate the work and contributions of women and people of color. And so that really was important to me because after growing up in communities that were so reflective of me, which in some ways you can say is very monolithic, entering into a diverse space with people from all over the world, to be told that I'm less than because of things and characteristics and traits that were praised and celebrated before was very jarring. And I would imagine listening to my family talk about their migration experiences and what it meant for them to have different stereotypes that were put against them and having to navigate that while learning the language and not feeling like they belong.
Wow, that is, oh my goodness, that's such a journey that you have. So, what was it like growing up as a daughter of an immigrant? Did you have, like, was it different? How did you? It was, I'm sure it was a superpower to be a daughter of an immigrant, but tell us a little more about that part of your life.
I would say beyond being the daughter of immigrants, we maintain a very family oriented kind of lifestyle. We had a multi-generational home. We were always together. We ate our traditional foods. We listened to our music. My parents always spoke to each other in French. And, there was a level of strictness that Caribbean parents have. But when you're growing up in a neighborhood where almost all the parents are Caribbean and they all have the same level of strictness, it didn't feel like it was like isolated. It was like, oh, this is our norm, right? Like ain't nobody
Yeah.
about to, nobody's outside the house when the dark the light comes out. That's not just a Pascal thing. That's everybody, right? Respecting your elders. That's not just a Pascal thing. That's everybody. And that also lended itself of like respect of your elders. So when I was riding my bike and I might be 3 blocks north and 2 blocks east of my house, if an elder saw me do something I wasn't supposed to do, they could reprimand me. They can tell me to do what is right. And most likely they got my mom's number and they're calling her and say, let me tell you what I saw your daughter doing outside. Teach her to be better. And ultimately knew that all of those voices, all of those eyes were eyes of protection and molding me into a better person. And it also meant I got to be spoiled by my grandparents, right? I got to enjoy watching their dynamic of closeness. And so it's like the idea of being a family of immigrants was really important to me in forming my identity and even how I see family now and how we lean into one another, that's the priority above everything else. It's family.
That is so inspiring, so cool, and it's so much similar to the Indian culture and the Indian community as well. So tell us a little bit about what inspired your path into architecture.
Sure. So my mom had signed me up for all the different extracurriculars that you can have imagined. One of them was ballet. It was not the best, but we did it anyway. And then my brother had like this art class that he would take, and one day there was no ballet class, and so my aunt had asked the teacher like, "Hey, can Pascal just like be in the class for this week?" And they're like, "Sure." So I'm sitting there in my ballet outfit next to my brother, and we were making clay, I think. And I was like, this is amazing. And my whole thing was like, I don't want to do ballet anymore. I want to go to art classes, which was to the dismay of my mom, who invested so much in the tutus and all the stockings and all the leotards and the things. But I had definitely found something that brought me an excessive amount of joy. And from there, I never let art down. Like I just kept infusing it in all that I did. And I was even commissioned to do a mural at the age of 11 at the Pamanak Community Center. And I drew a jungle gym with a multicultural community. And as I was drawing the machines or the thing, somebody walked by and said, "Wow, you could draw straight lines without a ruler. That's a great skill for an architect to have." And you could appreciate this as Caribbean parents. It was always, you're either going to be a doctor or a lawyer, which one you're going to be. And so I had never even considered the idea of like my passion of art to manifest into what I could be doing professionally. And the person really wasn't even really talking to me. They were just having this out loud thought. And I'm so grateful for that moment because it really planted a seed that I just never let go of. And I was determined to water, to prune, to nurture, to give it the sunlight that is needed to make it come to fruition. So in 2014, when I became a licensed architect, it was a very big dream come true because you're not allowed to call yourself an architect, architectural designer until you have a license. And so that's something that I've said that I've wanted to be since I was 11. So really proud to be able to have reached that goal.
Congratulations and kudos to you on your journey. This is so amazing. I love that you took all those voices which may seem on the answer. It just feels like it's such negative voices, but you turned them into something positive and you decided to shine and use that as a motivator. So that's amazing.
I don't know. I don't know that I would categorize any of the voices as negative, right?
Hmm.
Even if we go down to the professor was speaking his truth. He
Hmm.
was saying we wouldn't be, not because he didn't think we had the capacity, but because he had never seen a Black woman architect before. Right.
Got
And
it.
that's why volunteering with NOMA was so important to me. And that was also why it was incredibly important for me to become licensed. And when I did, I became the 315th living African American woman licensed architect in the United States. And in 2021, I was honored with the AIA Whitney M. Young Jr. Award, which is given to one person or group annually that is exemplar in terms of making the profession better and more equitable. And with that came the elevation to the College of Fellows. And when I elevated to the College of Fellows, I became the youngest African American to receive this honor in 167 years. So it's not so much of their negativity, it's more so much of their pessimism of the profession, that the profession wasn't welcoming to us. And so I appreciated my mom's sobering position that this will not be an easy path. So if this is the path you're choosing, then you have to be the best at this, because if you fail, if you don't show up the way you're supposed to, then what are the opportunities, or what opportunities will be lost or taken away from the next person who looks like you, who wants to be an architect, to change the world in that way. So I say all that to say, I'm grateful for all of those voices. And in some way, weird way, I'm grateful to that professor because he gave me purpose really early on. And I watched colleagues, classmates, and even people today still trying to figure out their path, where they need to go. Whereas for me, it's definitive, it's fine. I know exactly what direction I'm going. I know exactly what I'm doing. And that's because homie told me I couldn't. And then I've proved him wrong. And then now it's like, okay, now I need to let as many people know as possible that they too can do it. And for those who are doing it, how do we give them their flowers now? How do we elevate and celebrate them now? How do we make sure that their community knows this incredible resource that is there? And that, again, brings me the same level of joy as I did when I first put my hands on clay in that art class.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Thank you for sharing your testimony and tell us what motivated you to found Beyond the Built Environment. What is it all about and what is the purpose?
Sure. So I was on the board of NICOBA NOMA. I believe I was the recording secretary and the corresponding secretary. And again, really, it put me in the position to kind of communicate and engage our members so much. And I learned about all these incredible things our members were doing. And then the Center for Architecture, which is the home of the AIA New York chapter, had this incredible exhibition by the Beverly Willis Architecture Foundation called Built by Women. And they had all through the walls beautiful projects and labels of projects that were designed and constructed by women all around the city. And there were so many of those structures that I had participated in, had engaged in. I had no idea the women or the identity of those who were behind it. And I was walking through, I found the executive director at the time and I said, hey, if you guys are willing to do an exhibition elevating women, would you do one elevating people of color? And they said, absolutely. And so when I became president of the New York chapter of NOMA, I then did a call that every month during my presidency, we would elevate and celebrate a different NICOBA NOMA member for what they do, what they're doing, and raise their visibility amongst our membership and feature them. And at the end of my presidency, I had 24 incredible profiles of our members and used that to be the content for my very first Say It Loud exhibition at the Center for Architecture. And that was in January of 2017. And we elevated their work and we made sure it was colorful, bright, vibrant. And we had a labels that not just had our names but headshots. We had two screens on either side of the galleries that had video testimonials of them speaking about what their experience has been as a diverse designer in the profession. And then we had great graphics of their projects. And that was really important to me, that we see our faces, hear our voices, and feel our impact. And that's the concept. And soon after that, someone at the United Nations saw the exhibition and asked me to make the exhibition for the UN Visitor Center, which was incredible and allowed the exhibition to move, but also change and transform to this new space. And they also gave me the opportunity to speak. And so I used that power of the podium to say, representation matter, please help me make this a national movement. And they said, no, we're going to make this a global movement. And so I realized from there, we worked together for a year. We translated the exhibition into 8 different languages, and then they distributed it to all their information centers worldwide. There were places in the world that I didn't even know how to pronounce that were having Say It Loud
Wow.
exhibitions. They had also made it a day. March 25th, 2019 was Say It Loud Day, where they had students and professors come to their information centers all over the world to see the work. And that's when I said, I can't keep celebrating the same 24 people. This needs to be a traveling activation. And so I shifted, and that's when I began Beyond the Built Environment, because it's going beyond the work. It's beyond that, right? And so our first exhibition was then called to Activate. So it became a traveling activation exhibition, meaning the content is not moving, the format is moving, but wherever it lands, the women and people of color of that location is who gets featured. So we've had 51 Say It Loud exhibitions so far. We've elevated 1,140 incredible diverse designers from all over the world. We've done Australia, we've done California, we've done Nebraska, we've done Florida. We've done all over, covered about 80% of the US and 10% of the world in all of our Say It Loud exhibitions. And during COVID, I thought to myself, well, how can I continue to move this mission forward? Because my whole advocacy and business has been around being in places of community, having an exhibition, doing networking, being there with people. And so I converted all the stuff and all the content into a virtual library as well. So you from your home in your pajamas can click through and explore all 51 exhibitions, but then also created the Great Diverse Designers Library, where it's a repository of every single person who's ever been featured. And it has their headshots, their work, even some have video testimonials, and it's sequenced by location, and it's also sequenced by last name. And this was really important to me because ultimately all this information that I'm unearthing and gathering is to make it as accessible to the world as humanly possible. And so that really became this really amazing business model where I would create the portal. When we got invited to have an exhibition, people would self-submit, which was the first level of love, which is to say, it's your job to articulate how you want to be presented to the world. Use your voice, your vernacular. You choose the images. You pick the headshot. You tell me how you want me to celebrate you. And through that, they are able to submit, and then we're able to design the exhibition and have it put up. We have video testimonials and lower thirds and motion graphics that really elevate the quality and caliber of the exhibitions. And then we also print on 4x8 boards that allows us to move those boards later and move into other spaces. So sometimes we might have the exhibition, let's say at a Center for Architecture, but then it moves to a local high school library or a local community center to, again, continue to elevate that work. And since all the stuff is digital, if there's a damage to the boards or something gets ripped or something's misspelled, you print that one board or thing over. And so it just became this also incredible sustainability model in terms of how to exhibit and kind of move things in that space. And the last thing I'll say is I really wanted to have something tangible that was like my gift to the world. And that is what was the precipice for me creating Greatness, Diverse Designers of Architecture, which is my book that just released in February, which is divided into 4 chapters: residential, cultural, institutional, and urban planning. I start each chapter with an essay from me about how that typology can harm and architecture's responsibility to heal. And then I curated 10 projects per typology that healed through architecture. And similarly to my Say It Loud exhibitions, it's a very beautiful, gold, vibrant book. It's really colorful. I made it a point to celebrate people's identities, having people's headshots, their names, who they are, information about their projects, because we want you to not just celebrate us because of our identity, but also our contributions as well. And it's been really well received. It's made a lot of number one lists across the board, and it's been able to expose currently practicing contemporary designers of our time, which also made it accessible for students and those who might be inspired by what they see to say, "Oh, I'm going to reach out to that architect. I'm going to go check out their firm. I'm going to go listen to their podcast. I'm going to go on their social media page and ask them, and they could potentially be my mentor." And so it's really powerful to me to be able to bring this amazing work from, I think, diverse designers at the time that was in my library, and curate that to showcase them in the book.
Wow, that's amazing. So inspiring. I literally had goosebumps while you're talking because I can see and feel the passion, even though we're like, virtual. I can just feel your energy, and you're doing amazing work. And thank you so much for, your contributions and everything you're doing to make a difference around you. So, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing diverse designers in architecture?
Woo, that answer changes with time. First, I would say the first challenge that I really receive is every time I receive a submission and I put them in my Great Diverse Designers library, I start their bio with the great architect, the great interior designer, the great landscape architect, the great urban planner, the great, the great, the great. And I would get a lot of pushback. "Oh my gosh, you said I was great. That seems a little much. Can you tone it down?" And it's like the first thing is making us see the greatness within ourselves and accept the praise and the compliments, because we are so ready to consume the complaints and the criticisms. Like, training us to accept compliments is also really important and tough work. And there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh yeah, I saw the call for St. Loud, but my work is not great enough," right? And it's like, no, that's not how this works, right? You've impacted the built environment, you need to submit. Then there's also the force of erasure, right? It's not just a matter of capturing our information. It's also about fighting those who erase our existence, our participation, and our contributions. And that's really, really key to that as well. And that's why I think architecture itself has to also manifest what we're talking about. And even when I was creating greatness, part of my requirements was that, just like in the profession and in our projects, it's not just about the end result, but it's about the process. And so I wanted all those to touch the book to make it come to fruition to be a woman or person of color. Those were my criteria. And that allowed me to force our team to find and seek talent that they might have not tapped before. And they were so exemplary with what they were able to deliver that also got to expand the team's resources in that way. Right now, I find that in addition to those challenges, that I'm up against more headwinds than I've ever been before. When I was making the book, it took me 5 years to come to fruition. And it only took me 1 year to actually put the book together in terms of content, but it took 4 years to negotiate a book deal that made sense for what we were trying to do, that maintained the mission and what we're trying to achieve with greatness. But right now, people are afraid, right? People, when I was making the book, thought like, "Oh, that's a no-brainer. Like, we need this book. This book should be everywhere and everywhere." And now that it's finally here, it came out at a time where these books are the types of books that are being banned. They're not allowed in public libraries. They're not allowed in schools in a lot of spaces without the school being at risk. So I find that having support by companies, institutions, people, schools is something that is tough to be able to have access to. And that is really alarming to me, of how quickly that can shift. And even some of the work that we're doing as an architect is also being challenged. In addition to my advocacy hat, I am still the CEO of Adjaye Associates New York studio. I run a practice, and a beautiful practice in New York with an incredibly diverse team. We're 49% women, 82% BIPOC. We are pushing diversity, and even the communities and the clients that we work with are all building structures that are healing their communities in some way at various scales. So again, even there, from an architectural standpoint, I'm seeing the challenges from funding, grants that they used to have access to, state support that they used to have, now at risk or now been retracted, or so on and so forth. So I find that the challenges multiply, but that's also important to understand that the work of dismantling racism, sexism, and all forms of oppression is not going to be a linear path. It's not going to be an easy path, and it's not going to be a short one. And so that's why I try to do this work in a way that's sustainable for me, where I balance family time, where I balance self-care, where I balance delegating and having an amazing team. Any successful person that I see, I don't say, wow, they do it all and they're doing it well. I'm like, man, their team must be stellar. And that mindset has been like amazing, catapulting me into spaces and areas that I never thought I would be. I'm not shy to share what my identity is. I wear my hair big and fluffy and curly, fro. I don't try to change or, Europeanize my ideal of beauty. I'm very much owning who I am in that space. And I'm just trying to be as loud about it as possible and push the mission forward in unique spaces, and using this challenge of this additional wind that I am up against to find and chart new paths, to sculpt new tools, and to tap new resources, because I'm as relentless as the forces that are against us.
Amazing. I love it. You look beautiful and I love your hair. And yes, you have a stellar team, and the team is so important for any successful entrepreneur. So, do you have a couple stories from your book that resonate with you?
So, it's funny, because part of the book, or putting it together, the book, when I was putting the book together, two things I had to really learn. The first is, my book agent was like, where are you in the book? And I said, oh, the book is not about me. The book is about the 47 diverse designers who made these 40 projects. And they said, no, you are the glue that made this happen. People need to understand why you put this book together. You are needed in this book. And I realized through that was the same things that I was challenging people who would call me and say, Pascale, you put the word great in front of my name. That was my version of it, right? And even in the essays, at first in my proposal, my book proposal, I had proposed that I would tap different architects and designers who were stellar in that typology to write that essay. And the book publisher was like, you are the expert. You don't need nobody else. You already have 47 people you can get quotes, but we want you to write it. And so this urging me to be in this book was a tough part for me. And so I say all that to say, one of the unique stories within here is just that my story is here. And that was not my intention at all in the beginning, but it does make it much more personal. People get it when they read the book and understand the importance of why this book even exists in that space. The other thing is, I had originally pitched like double the page count, and I was trying to get like 8 chapters up in there. And the team was like, Pascale, you're moving with a scarcity mindset. Like, this is the one and only book you'll ever do. And so you're trying to make it do all of the things. But you have to live and breathe and move in the mindset of abundance. And so for this first book, what does this first book need to do? What groundwork does it need to do? And allow a path and a way for the next book to come, and the next book after that. And that was a really big shift as well, which allowed this book to breathe, if that makes sense. And so in those essays, that really, because now if I'm the one writing, I gotta make sure it's right. I really did a lot of research and thought about not just the 47 that I curated to be in the book, but also the 1,000+ designers that I had access to, rereading their stories and seeing through lines and trends that was like, wow, I didn't realize that we all have this very similar element or thing that really kind of speaks to what guides us into this profession, and what are the same challenges that we're kind of up against. And so I think the book is really powerful. There's an intentionality about the range within the book in terms of the balance of gender within the book. There's also a range of ages, locations in the world where those who are featured are in here. I have student work in here. I have those who've retired in here, and everything in between. I have work in the Caribbean in here. And sometimes people say, well, why would we need a Say It Loud in Africa? And I'm like, well, we might be the diverse people, might be the population, but it doesn't mean that we're in control of our built environment. And when I became president of NOMA nationally, the National Organization of Minority Architects, I turned it into an international organization and was able to launch 2 international global chapters. And that's really important, because we can't not stay confined to this country, because our impact is well beyond that. And our participation in the conversations and the tools and the solutions are beyond these borders as well. And I feel like now, living in this time, that has been reinforced and just being qualified as what I've been pushing. And so that's why I'm really proud that when you open the book, you might see a project from Australia, you might see a project from California, you might see a project from Jersey. Like they're all within here, in Saudi. And that's really powerful for me. And I'm really excited for it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I will definitely have the link to purchase the book in the show notes. Before we wrap up, do you have any advice that you would like to give aspiring architects from underrepresented communities?
So I often talk about the reason why our numbers are so low in the profession is because there's a level of privilege to chase the profession of architecture, from the investment academically to the investment of time. You're going to a private school, or if there's very few public, state schools that actually have these degrees. So just getting into the profession itself and from an education standpoint is a challenge. So the first thing I'll say, if you're aspiring to it, is to tap as many resources as you possibly can. You will need to leave probably your area of home and comfort and community to find these spaces that will give you that information. The next is, while you're in school, your classmates is your professional colleagues. That's who they are. And so how you carry yourself, how you take care of your classwork, how you show up in school is how it's forming your reputation well beyond graduation. So this is also where you want to build community. They are not your competitors. It's not like, oh, I'm over here, you're over there, you stay on that side, I'll be on this side. No, like, oh, I'm really good at making models, you're really good at drawing. Can you do 30 minutes of teaching me how you draw, and I'll take 30 minutes of teaching you how I make models? And that is an incredible kind of way of kind of building together, right? And leveraging each other's resources and being able to grow, because your professors are going to teach you so much, but your classmates are going to teach you the rest. And so seeing them not as adversaries, but as seeing them as collaborators is really key and important. And that's why, and this is the last plug, and I promise you I don't get royalties for saying this, but I think LinkedIn is a really important social media platform, especially for young aspiring architects who are in school or about to graduate, because this really allows you to stay connected to different employment groups. And so if there's a particular firm you're excited about, organization, you can click it and you can see who in your network is actually there, and they can make introductions in spaces. I say, don't be bold, be yourself. Don't need to change or filter your identity. Speak your language, eat your cultural food, be that, right? Even for me at work, we have on Thursdays nibbles, and this is a day where we eat foods from all over the world. And in New York, we have the luxury of doing that. And our amazing operations manager, she was able to do it every week for an entire year, a different cuisine. We were eating such amazing foods, and we would have some activity of play that we get to know each other. And we would do that during work hours, because building community shouldn't be like you taking away from your time from home and from rest to do it. Celebrating culture in the workplace is also possible, and in the right environments as well. And I would say, lastly, be generous. You do not need to wait until you're retired to start giving back. Every step you take in your profession, you're in a position to grab the hand of the person behind you and take those steps together. And that's why, even with greatness, my gift to the world is I've also committed to donating 500 books to women, to elementary and high school kids who might be interested in architecture and design. So I've been partnering with schools all across the world to donate books. So if any of your viewers have a school that you think could be great or would be interested, please reach out to us. My IG is Pascale Sablan, the spelling of my name. Please reach out, DM me, let me know. We're happy to connect with the school and give some books away. So we have 500 ready to give out. We've given out in Jersey, in New York, in Barbados, in Chicago. We have Atlanta upcoming next. So we're excited to continue to grow and to give books out and to continue to plant the seeds for everyone, that not only are they welcomed and needed and necessary in the profession, but they are brilliant and talented and very much equipped to be the best and to really change the world in their way.
Amazing, amazing. I was going to ask you, how would you like people to contact you? And you already answered that. So I'll ask you the last question, which is, what legacy do you hope to leave in the field of architecture?
I think the legacy of celebrating others and protecting others is really important. I find that people really are self-oriented, and I have that too. Like I'm not saying that I don't, but my life's passion, the things that gets me giddy, is just elevating other people. And that might be because I have 9 siblings, and I was always the voice that says, hey, did you know this person got an A on their test? Hey, did you see this person did this amazing thing? Or did you know that this person ran really fast? Mom, like, I was always happy to get other people celebrated because people tend to be shy about these things. And so being a person who pours into other people, shedding the light on others, does not dim my own. And so the legacy that I'm hoping to leave is one where I made a dent, made a good impact and progress in dismantling the injustices that we have both in the profession and in the built world, but also one that allows really important and amazing diverse professionals to smell the flowers, to feel accepted, feel appreciated, and feel loved. And also to give the example of celebrating other people is an amazing and incredible thing to do.
Amazing. It was truly an honor to talk to you today. And thank you so much for sharing your everything, your story, your culture, your work, and about your book. I will have all the links in the show notes for our listeners. Thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you to you for hosting such an amazing podcast. And thank you to every listener who stuck by me on this episode and heard all that I had to share. And yes, please don't be shy. Please connect with me, Pascale Sablan, on IG, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. It's my name, and I'm here.
Thank you. As we conclude our inspiring conversation with Pascal, remember that every space tells a story, and who gets to tell that story matters. If you're ready to build your own platform to share your mission and impact, I'd love to help create a digital foundation that reflects your vision. You can book a free strategy call or a website audit with the link in my show notes, or visit jenningstechcorner.com. This is Anisha Jennings reminding you that sometimes the most important structures we build are the ones that lift others up. Until next time.